What's up, guys? Just double checking my setup real quick. This is the first time doing it on the new computer. Everything looks to be going good. What's going on? So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about getting too tricky with your app. We'll dive into that a little later because I'm going to show you a tweet based on kind of where I got this idea and this thought experiment. Then we're going to talk about the giveaway update. You can kind of see the gift cards in the background. I'm bad at that. Kind of give an update on the giveaway. Going to talk about some coaching I'm going to be doing. And then we'll dive into some Q&A. If it's your first time in one of my live streams, the way these work is I usually talk for, 5 to 10 minutes about the subject, but go ahead and keep asking your questions in the chat. I usually get to pretty much every question that gets asked. Yep, I'll start rambling for a little bit, ask away, then we'll get into the Q&A and get into the discussion. But the discussion is the key point there because the main topic of today, I want to be a discussion. So I'm going to talk about that first, about getting too tricky with your app. And then I really want your feedback because, like I said, I'm kind of two minds on the topic. So I want to hear kind of your guys' thoughts and experiences. So let me just go ahead and say what's up to the chat real quick before we dive in. Semper, Jason, good to see you. Socket, you're slipping. He beat you. Ula, what's going on? Good to see you, James. Siddharth, hey, how's it going? Greetings from Indonesia. What's going on, Jabal? Just the exact topics I've been waiting to hear about. So cool. And feel free, if I don't cover exactly what you're looking for, just chime in with a question. Like I said, my live streams aren't big enough yet to where, I'm going to skip over your question. As long as it's somewhat relevant and not ridiculous, I'll answer it. All right, so let's dive in here to the topic. There's about 52 people in here. That's good enough to get going. All right, so let me put up this tweet real quick. And like I said, I came across this tweet here, a couple days ago, and it just really made me think. So the original tweet was, over the years, I've started to prefer code that is boring but easy to understand. I cringe when I crack open some dependency source code and find some, quote, smart abstractions to make it painful to understand what's going on as an outsider. And then the response was what kind of got me thinking was, the reason I stopped using Reactive Swift, the goal should be to write code that 100% of devs can understand. Now, like I said, excuse me, I'm kind of on two sides of this. So the main topic about getting too tricky is the concept of, like, let's say you use Reactive Swift or some architecture that's not very common, like a Viper. MVVM is kind of common, but you just kind of stray away from the norm. Now, I think straying away from the norm and trying to innovate and trying to find better ways to write apps is awesome. We absolutely should be doing that. But the cost is, like the tweet said, is now you have kind of I don't know if niche code base is the right word, but you have a code base that is not common to most iOS developers. Now, I experienced this firsthand in one of my contracts. It was written in Reactive Swift, and it wasn't actually my contract. I was filling in because the dev that was working on it from the dev shop had like a family emergency, but we had a deadline. So I had to jump into this code base and finish a feature where A, I wasn't familiar with the code base, B, I had never done Reactive Swift before, and needless to say, it was a very, very frustrating experience because we were under a tight deadline. Like, I didn't have the cushion of time to be like, okay, let me take my time and learn this. I just had to get it done. So my experience there was like, man, if this was just a, quote unquote normal app, I would have been able to just get in there, make the change, be done. We hit the deadline, good to go. So again, I would love to hear your thoughts, your experiences on dealing with a not normal code base is kind of the best way I can think of to describe it. Because like I said, I agree we should be trying new things like protocol-oriented programming, Reactive Swift, Viper, MVVM, all the kind of new stuff that comes out and people try. I love that we're trying that and trying to push app development forward. But at the same time, it does come at a little bit of a cost. Have you guys experienced that? Have you guys experienced jumping into a code base? You're like, man, I just wish this was, a standard code base. Or have devs, gone into this new, call it protocol-oriented programming or something like that, and they jumped in, they learned quick, and they loved it, and everything worked out. If you've had experience with that, either both live now, let me know, or in the comments, we can continue this discussion there. But that's what I wanted to bring up. Like I said, I don't exactly know how I feel about it, because like I said, I can see both sides, and I imagine it's going to be like an individual decision, based on your business, what you're trying to build, the team you're trying to build, and everything. So that was kind of the main question I wanted to present to you. Hopefully the discussion continues in the chat. While that is kind of wrapping, or you guys are asking your questions and stuff, I have some just general just general channel stuff. So the giveaway status, again, you can see the gift cards in the background. I think I'm going to do that around Swift News, like every week, give one away on Swift News and try to spread the word about Swift News, get that out there, because I'm trying to really make that show, something fairly big, because I think I'm onto something. I'm getting a lot of great positive feedback on it. So the only downside to those gift cards is they are US dollar gift cards. Like basically how I got them was when I got the iMac Pro, part of the reward for getting the iMac Pro was they just threw a bunch of gift cards at you. So that's how I got them, and I decided to give them away. So I have 8 $25 gift cards, but they're US dollar gift cards, and they only work on the US Apple Store, I believe. So I may have to limit that to US customers, US audience only. So that kind of sucks. But if you have any ideas on how I can get around that with minimal effort, like I'm not trying to, send cash and then now I have the gift card, like I just want minimal effort, right? I'm just trying to do a nice fun giveaway. So, or I guess you can get a US iTunes account, that'll work as well. So that's the update giveaway. Look for that on tomorrow's Swift News. I'll be giving away the first one, or at least be setting up the standards of how I'm going to give it away. Next up, I want to talk about a little bit of coaching. Now, I did this about 6 to 8 months ago, and probably went through 7 or 8 students, but basically my contracts got to be too much and it just became too time consuming, so I stopped coaching. And I'm actually opening that back up. Now I am only doing 3 students at a time, again, because of time concerns and because I want to just limit my bandwidth, right? Like if I'm trying to coach 12 students, it's hard for me to give them the attention, I want to give them when there's so many. So I only have three seats. Well, they're not open because I presented it to my Patreon community first. Again, if you're not familiar, check out patreon.com/Sean Allen. Link is down in the lower right. But the seats filled up, so all 3 coaching seats are filled, but I still wanted to put it out to the public, if you will, to kind of start a waiting list. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, it is, an hourly rate. We can discuss that in, DM me or email me. We can discuss that, but just wanted to put that out there. Basically, what I do is we can talk about whatever you want. If you're just beginning, I can help you get started, teach you kind of the basics. If you have a project you're working on, I can dive into the code base with you, help you, figure out a feature, that kind of stuff. Or if you already are starting your career and maybe you're struggling with your first contract, I can kind of jump in there and help get you over the hump. The point is, it's basically whatever you want. You get me for an hour to pretty much do whatever you want, code related. So that is pretty much all I have to chat about. Now I see the chat going pretty good. I want to dive in. Hopefully there's some good discussion going on about the trickiness of the app. Forgive me if I'm going to skip over some of the pleasantries. We kind of already did that. So if you said hi, this is my blanket. Hey, what's up? How's it going? We'll get to the kind of the meat of the discussion. Okay. Simon Ackle says, relevant question. I'm using MVP architecture right now. So I have a presenter and a view. They talk to each other through delegation for one module. But how do I connect modules using delegation again? To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure the presenters and the reactive kind of stuff. Can't really answer that on a live stream. Again, try to keep the questions to like the high level topic of how you deal with this and is it good or bad to kind of move. Getting into specific coding questions like on a live stream is kind of tough. Hey Sean, super useful tips in channel. Thank you. Your simple explanations on bounds versus frame was a lifesaver for me. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I've been getting a lot of feedback too about that interview question series I've done. I mean, it's almost a year old now, but a lot of people have said that I've gone through interviews lately because a lot of people in my Slack channel are going through interviews, whether it's contracting interviews or larger corporations. And they pretty much always say like, yeah, they asked pretty much exactly what your video series was. So glad I made that series. Like I said, I used it for myself to refresh and yeah, seems to be helping a lot of people out. Should I use Viper or not? Well, that's kind of the question here. Like I mentioned, it's cool to experiment with new things because that's how you find the next standard that keep making better apps. But not all of them win or work out. Swifty Tilting Planet says, I have looked into protocol-oriented programming, but everything I've made is with OOP and MVC. I'm the same way. I would say 95% of the apps I've worked on are just standard. Object-oriented programming, model view controller, nothing crazy. Which again it's not being super innovative, but at the same time, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, but yeah, like I said, I just don't know how I feel about this. This is why I wanted to talk about this topic. yeah, like I said, you don't want to get into the same rut, just OOP and MVC all the time, no matter what, and not innovate. But at the same time, you end up with a weird, tricky code base when you are on the forefront of that innovation. Robert Ramirez says, what setup did you decide on with your new Mac? I just got the 10 core and then the Max GPU. I have my setup video is going to be coming out soon. Basically, just to give you the cliff notes of it, is I didn't get the iMac Pro for development. I've gotten a lot of questions since like talking about the iMac Pro. Should I get it for development? And the answer is absolutely not. Like, it's 1,000% overkill for just iOS development. The reason I got the iMac Pro was, and you'll see this in my setup video, I'll repeat myself a little bit, but was just for video editing. When I got my MacBook Pro, video editing wasn't even a thought in my mind. So like I didn't get a very powerful MacBook Pro, to put it simply, and it just was struggling to handle my video editing, and I've had storage issues all the time. So that's why I got the iMac Pro, for video editing, not for dev. But I am in my setup video going to do some build comparisons where I build a tough project on the iMac Pro and then a tough project on the MacBook Pro, just to kind of show you guys, the couple seconds you might save. German says MVCP. I actually haven't heard that before, so we might have to elaborate on that. Jabal says, I'm interested in the coaching. Yeah, so if you're interested in the one-on-one coaching, and those are typically Google Hangouts where we just, a voice call, and then I can share my screen, show you some code. You can share your screen, show me some code. Typically you'll put the project up on GitHub so I can actually download the project and work on that with you. If you are interested in that, like I said, DM me on Twitter. You see the Twitter handle down there below the chat. Or email me, seanallen.dev@gmail.com, and we can kind of discuss details. But like I said, the 3 seats are already filled. So it would be kind of like on a waiting list, but that's fine. Powell says, hi, Sean. I like what you do and good luck to you, mate. Thanks, Powell. Appreciate that. Hermet Mail says, best design pattern. So like I said, I print 95% is MVC. So I'm not super experienced with Viper, or I did one app I didn't build the app in MVVM, but I was in there to implement like a new feature. So I've dabbled in MVVM a little bit, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert that I can actually give an opinion on why they're so great or why they're so bad. But like I said, that's why this topic is very, very interesting to me, is because I've pretty much just done MVC, OOP, or not, letters. Yeah. Hi, Sean. How's the iMac Pro for app development in Xcode? I think I just discussed that. I don't notice a difference in Xcode. The build times on like a really heavy app, the build times are certainly quicker, but not worth buying it for that. Hi, Sean. About Google Flutter, is it going to replace Swift? Don't know if that's trolling, but I just released a video yesterday. Check out my channel. We discussed that. Can we able to apply to the design patterns to protocol-oriented programming? And what is the protocol-oriented programming language exactly? So protocol-oriented programming isn't a language. It's instead of like classes and subclasses, you're using everything conforms to specific protocols. You just have a bunch of protocols and things conform to that, and that's how they get their behavior. Again, not claiming to be a protocol-oriented programming pro. I've just looked into it and played around with it a little. I've never built an app in protocol-oriented programming. So again, not claiming to be a pro, but that's how I understand it. If I misspoke, please somebody correct me in the chat or the comments. Hi, how long have you been going? I just started at 9 a.m., so about 13 minutes. So just getting started. I've already presented the main question on the topic, which was for people new coming in. I'll kind of just reiterate it very quickly. Basically, again, popped up this tweet here, basically saying that apps that try to use things like Reactive Swift, and I'm not crapping on Reactive Swift or anything like that. This is not that at all. But apps that use things like this, Viper, MVVM, or just the non-traditional, boring, object-oriented programming, or MVC, it's good to kind of push the boundaries and start learning some new stuff. But the trade-off is now your code base is a little tricky for new developers to come in and work on, and there's going to be a learning curve. Again, it's the trade-off that I'm interested in hearing people's experiences. Brett says, good video in response to Stefan yesterday. Yeah, that video, I'm not going to say went viral, but it was definitely got more attention than I expected, and more tweets and retweets and likes and all that stuff. My phone was kind of blowing up yesterday. So Yeah, like I said, I just felt like he put out misinformation. I have nothing against him, but like I said, I was getting a lot of messages that were saying like, "Oh, did I make the wrong choice?" And people were making career decisions based on that video. So that's why I wanted to, put out my response. Roman says, "I just joined a startup as lead iOS, and the source code is using Swift 2.0. Got some work ahead of you. Currently, and there's not a lot of backlog of features to come. Should I dedicate iOS team to migrate to Swift 4? Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know your exact code base, and it depends on the difficulty. Like, is that going to take you 6 months? Then maybe you got to question that more. If it's going to take you, a month or a couple weeks, again, I don't know how big the app is. So I would see how much time it's going to take, but yeah, your Swift is changing so much and so rapidly. The Swift 2 to Swift 3 jump was the brutal one. Swift 3 to Swift 4 wasn't that bad. But yeah, if you're still on Swift 2, I would definitely take the time to upgrade if you plan on working on that app well into the future. T equals the Elm architecture. Haven't heard of that one. To be honest with you, I haven't gone down the time to research and play with all the different architecture types. Like I said, with this past year that I spent contracting, it's been just time has been a concern. It's just been bam, 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 new contract, and there just hasn't been time to experiment with a new thing because there's just always such tight deadlines. So Semper Phoenix says, glad you made the reaction video to Stefan's video. Obviously the no YouTube war is wanted. Yep, but I'm glad you helped set the record straight and Swift isn't going anywhere. Yeah, like I said, no beef. Just like I said, don't want people that I'm interacting with to make poor decisions based on falsehoods. Pedro says, finally I can see the feed. Glad to have you here, Pedro. Mayor says, I joined as an iOS intern for some big brands. They use Reactive Swift. It was so hard to learn that, and then to contribute to it all of it in 14 weeks time, part-time. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's the kind of experiences I'm looking to hear. Again, not negative. If you have a positive experience, I want to hear that as well. But there's just going to be such a steep learning curve, and maybe it's worth it for your company. Again, I'm not bashing it. Maybe doing something like Reactive Swift, and again, I'm not picking on them, it's just the example I keep using, it helps your type of app so much that ramp up time is worth it, then by all means, do it. But I think a lot of developers, and I'm speaking in general, like to go for the shiny, new, tricky, clever thing. That's just in our nature, right? We want to be clever and tricky. But a lot of times that comes at a cost. Rohi says, is Viper really a great architecture or unnecessarily boomed? Again, I've never used Viper. I can't give a opinion on that, but if anybody in the chat can, if anybody has used Viper, please chime in. MVCP is MVC validated by protocols. Okay, didn't know that. Good enough. I'll have to check that one out. Pedro says, moving to Apple TV and seeing the chat on the show. Windows. Oh, okay. Harden MVP. I think he will get it. Maybe he meant MVP plus router. Yeah, so like I said, I've dabbled in Reactive, so routers, presenters, all that stuff. Like I said, I've dabbled, but I don't claim to know that greatly. Yerman says, I bet the Swift dying is by somebody who wants some attention. Yeah, I thought when he put that out there, I thought it was clickbait, and I didn't, that's kind of how I took the video at first. It was clickbaity, trying to get views. So that's why I didn't respond. I mean, my response didn't come out until 5 days after the video came out. But again, it was just comments, DMs, people on Twitter. Like I said, they were getting genuinely concerned and scared they made the wrong decision. So I wouldn't have made the video if it wasn't for people, getting in touch with me about it. Because like I said, if his opinion is, web apps are going to dominate native apps, it's fine. It's his opinion, and can't argue that. You're entitled to your opinion. But like I said, when people are starting to make career decisions based on that, it's kind of when it started to bother me. How do you pick on iOS after a break of 30 to 40 days not doing any iOS, especially for beginners? Skyscraper, I can't really give advice on this because I've never done that. Since the day I started learning to code a little over 3.5 years ago, or I keep losing track of the actual time, call it 3.5 years. But I don't think I've taken longer than a 6-day break without coding. And that was because I went on vacation or something. So I can't relate to taking, 30 to 40 days off. So it's hard to give advice there. Maybe somebody in the chat has gone through that and they can help out. I know a lot of people in my Patreon community, and I keep bringing that up because we talk all the time. We're just chatting in Slack all the time. So I know some people said, I took a 6-month break or I took a year-long break and now I'm coming back to it. So maybe there's somebody here in the chat that can relate to that and that can help you out. Gabriel says, my MacBook Pro is dying. Should I buy 2017 MacBook Pro or wait for the 2018? I would at least wait to see what happens at WWDC. I mean, it's only a little over a month away. If they don't typically announce hardware at WWDC, but I think last year they announced new MacBook Pros and the iMac Pro, so you never really know. If it were me and I was in your shoes, I would see what happens at WWDC, and then, depending on that, make my decision. Max Smith says, I will start working on a Viper project next week. The main reason Viper was chosen as architecture was unit testing. Yeah, like I said, I'm not bashing these things and telling you to stay with tried and true. I'm not saying that at all. Like I said, I was just interested in the question, and doing one of these architectures, like Max says, may have a very specific purpose for your app, and that's great. Like I mentioned earlier, then that is worth the ramp up time for your new devs, right? Because it's going to benefit your business in the long run. So thanks for sharing that, Mac. Chili Bean says, I just started learning MVVM. Still very new to the concept. One benefit is that it helps reduce massive view controller, which is when view controller is doing much of the work. Yeah, that is the main selling point of MVVM, because it stands for model view model. So you're basically extracting that view model into another layer, so your view controllers are nice and clean. It's basically adding another layer to MVC essentially. So it's not terribly different from MVC, but again, I don't have a ton of experience with it. Should I install beta version from Xcode when released or wait for final version released? I'm assuming you're talking coming up here in WWDC when they, Xcode 10, 9, what are we at? Yeah, Xcode 10 is coming out. I wonder if they call it Xcode X. But I always run both. I always have a production version of Xcode, and then I have my beta of Xcode when that comes out during WWDC time, because I want to play with Swift 5. I want to play with, last year was ARKit. I don't know what's coming out this year. But if you want to play with all that stuff, then yeah, you're going to have to get on the betas. But I always run both. I mean, don't run just the beta. Joel says, hey, Sean, what's going on, Joel? Gamer says, RX is good if you use it extensively across languages. Then again, if you only develop in one language, there's no need to do reactive. Cool. Is there a certain website where you apply for iOS jobs? Nick, the site I used when I first came out here to San Francisco was called AngelList. That's where a lot of startups will post their jobs. And I recommend a new developer try some of the startups, because the bigger companies are tougher to get into, and startups might be more willing to take a chance on a junior dev just because flat out they're trying to save money, right? They may have one senior dev that they're willing to pay, but they want another dev, and they might be looking for some cheap work, because startup life is all about saving that money. So that's what I did. I was at a smaller startup. My first job, they took a chance on me. Didn't pay very well, but I just knew once I got my foot in the door and once I got my first job, I just knew I was going to be off and on my way from there. So that was that huge hurdle I had to get over at first, and then it was smooth sailing from there. But yeah, AngelList.co is where I found my job, and that's kind of a big thing here, at least and it's not just San Francisco, Silicon Valley companies. They're I believe it's global, not sure, but obviously they're concentrated in Silicon Valley. What is your preferred way to educate yourself? Blog posts or videos? It's actually both. I mean, they're both great, right? Blog posts are cool because a lot of times you can see the code printed out, copy and paste it, and kind of go through it slowly. Videos are also good because the person, like myself, is actually explaining as they're coding, and hopefully they're doing a good job, and it's getting through to you. So yeah, I use a mixture of both. I can't pick one or the other. Can you do an iOS app from scratch series? Would be dope. Yeah, Lucas, my to-do list is so long on videos. Like, the main reason I want to go full-time is just because I want to full-time YouTube, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. I'll do a job update video soon because there are updates on that front. I might look to go full-time at the beginning of 2019. I'll reassess the situation at that point, put it that way. But when I go full-time, it's just going to be an avalanche of cool content. I have all these, backed up ideas that I just wish I could do. Just don't have the time working full-time and trying to do all this. Roman says, okay, thanks for the response. Haha, migrating to the latest Swift is a must, but I don't know what's the best way to handle this, not blocking the development of upcoming features. I mean, it's going to take a while. Again, I don't know how big your app is. Assuming your app is of normal size, average size, it's probably going to take a while to do that migration. So before you decide to do it, I would go to your, and again, I don't know the structure of your company, but your product manager or your engineering manager or whoever's like your lead, like let them know that development is probably going to freeze for X amount of time. And again, I can't tell you what X is because I don't know your app, but yeah, going from Swift 2 to 3 was quite a brutal change. Skyscraper, on the side note, did you watch the Infinity War? If yes, how did you feel after watching it? I actually just saw it last night. So I'm feeling a little rough this morning. Saw it last night, went out for a couple of drinks afterwards. So I'm not huge into the Marvel Universe. They're just entertainment to me. So I'm not like invested in anything, but I thought it was good. I would recommend watching it. No spoilers. What needs to learn something new in iOS? Not sure what you asked. If you could re-ask that in a different way and elaborate on that, happy to answer. Swiftly, I'll just call you Caleb. Are you doing MVC and OOP in your new contract, or are you doing something else? Like I said, I've probably been on, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 contracts, somewhere in that range now. And when I say contracts, like projects, because, yeah, anyway, different code bases. And all of them except one was MVC or OOP. And that was the reactive story that I told earlier, where I had to jump in and do a feature, and I didn't know reactive, and it was on a super tight timeline, and it was frustrating and not a fun weekend, put it that way. So, but yeah, that's why this, like I said, that's why this question is so intriguing to me, is because I haven't had time to play with those. Mohammed says, someday I try to make a streaming application like playing audio from API, but I get a long process to start the music. Is there any suggestion? Thank you. So I've made apps playing videos, but I don't have, that API memorized. So hard for me to help you off the top of my head in a live stream, but yeah, maybe someone else can help you in the chat here. Ryan says, hey Sean, I really liked your videos on Flutter. I was honestly worried in starting learning Flutter completely getting off my Android iOS track. See, Ryan, I got many messages like this that people said, oh, I was just going to give up native development and go all in on Flutter. So you're the exact reason why I made the video, Ryan, is because I got plenty of messages like this. And like I said, I just thought what he was saying was flat out false. So thanks for sharing that, Ryan. And thanks for giving me an example of the type of, I probably got 10 to 15 of these, of similar type messages. So difference between Google Flutter and Reactive. I'm not super familiar with. Google Flutter is like brand new, just came out, so I haven't really played with it. I always watch your video, Sean. I'm glad I've noticed your live streaming now. Thanks for coming, Joel. That, and if we could predict the future, we'd be millionaires. Sure. Do you also copy code, or do you memorize it all? Of course you copy code. Like, any developer that's, I don't care how long they've been doing it, if they don't go to, the docs, or, you got to be careful with Stack Overflow, for sure. But it's not copy paste done, right? It's copy paste. Okay, now let me rip it apart and make it my own, make it what I need to make it, right? When I copy and paste like code, I'm basically doing that just for the structure, if you will, of the code, or kind of the general. And a lot of times I'm copying and pasting it so I can like have it in Xcode, and rather than like constantly going back to the website to look at the code. It's kind of almost like a visual thing as well. And then, like I said, I'll tear it apart and make it my own. But it's never just like copy. Well, I shouldn't say never. If it's like a one-liner, sure. But yeah, it's copy, paste, edit the hell out of it. Ben says, at Domino's, we have an in-house cross-platform framework which compiles native Android and iOS apps into JavaScript shell. It's an MVVM. The natives apps are just the Vue. Everything else is in Java. Okay, I hope you expand on that, Ben. I'm interested to hear about that. Kaya says, are you going to WWDC? Excuse me. I don't have a ticket. I'm not going to actual WWDC. I might go, because there's all kinds of events and free conferences down there. I might go just for the, events and stuff, but I'm not actually going to WWDC. I am going to take the whole week off of work of WWDC and probably pump out like 2 videos a day. I'm going to kind of go content crazy during WWDC with all the new stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Again, that's like the first week of June. My chat keeps going. Tariq says, do you think a person can create an app and make the top 10 in the App Store in one go? It's not likely. It's possible, for sure. To crack the overall top 10 in the App Store as just an indie dev is very, very hard. Again, not saying you can't do it. It's just not going to be easy. Heriberto says, what made you choose iOS app dev over other fields in software, such as compilers, web dev, machine learning, computer networking? Just curious. So I like, so iOS, I knew I was going mobile, and iOS and Android wasn't even a thought. Like I melt when an Android phone touches my hand. Like, I just don't like the operating system of Android. The actual Android phones are like amazing. The hardware is great. I just don't like the software of Android. But anyway, I like what type of code I like to create is I like being able to create something and then have somebody like use it, touch it, see the experience. Like you're building an experience when you're building an app. Whereas like doing stuff like back-end code or machine learning, like that isn't as attractive to me is because it's not consumer facing, right? Like it's amazing stuff, but it all goes on in the background and the consumer, might not even know it exists. So I like I said, I like building an experience that a consumer can actually touch, feel, play with, see, and can delight them. So that's why I like the front end app development aspect of it. So it's kind of why I chose that. Ben says, okay, looks like he's continuing what he was saying. It was scary at first, but now I'm enjoying just working on UI, and there's benefits to having single tested model shared between two platforms. Yeah, Ben, for sure. The discussion there was never, and I'm not saying you were going down this road, but I want to just reiterate it. The discussion there was never, non-native is better than native. If, both have their use cases, and like I say in the video, it's a business decision that you got to make what's best for your app. So it's good to hear that experience. Thanks for sharing that, Ben. Paul says, related to your last vid, I'm an ex-Adobe Flash dev. Even ActionScript is dead. Now I don't regret learning anything. Actually loads helped me with my programming today. Comfort zone never taught me anything. For sure, and I mentioned this in my video too, it's not, once you learn one language and one platform, if the world ends on that platform and you have to switch to another platform, it's not the end of the world. I know I just said the world ends. Anyway, if that platform fails and you have to shift to another platform, once you've been programming for a couple years, switching to a new platform and language isn't crazy difficult. So that's why I wouldn't even put too much stress into that. I know I mentioned I'm fine tying my career to Apple, but the truth is, if Apple were to disappear next week, I have no problem switching to whatever my next favorite platform is and learning the code there and think it'll be a complete non-issue, right? Sure, it'll be it'll take me a little bit to ramp up, but I'm not worried about it. So really my take on this whole question overall is I think people put too much stock into it, what to learn. Like Powell says, once you learn one, you can kind of switch and go with the flow as things change. Ali says, no, I came too late. Don't worry, watch the replay. It'll be up probably an hour after the stream ends. Man, can you talk about your views on texture async display kit if you've worked with it? I've not worked with async display kit. I believe that's the Facebook framework for UI stuff. I have not worked with it. Patrick, hello, sorry I'm late. Yep, you're fired. Kick him. He's gone. What's going on, Patrick? Ali says, have you ever used GeoFire? I have not. German says Xcode 10 may or may not have full deployment through build. I haven't heard any rumors about Xcode 10 yet. So I'd be curious to hear where you heard that. I'm not doubting you. I want to hear rumors about Xcode 10. I haven't heard anything yet. So if you have a link or anything that you heard that, German, I'd love to see it. Vitaly says, which one dependency management system do you love and use? I use CocoaPods. I wouldn't say I love and use it. I'm not bashing CocoaPods. It's what I learned. It's all I've used. It worked. I haven't explored others. I haven't explored Carthage, or I know Swift Package Manager is being improved on rapidly. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll look into them, but for now, CocoaPod works. I'm quick with it. Gets the job done. That's that. Make some video on design pattern, please. That is on the to-do list. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a very, very long list of ideas. Tariq says, how long does it take to grow or make enough salary to live in the application industry? This is hard to answer. It all depends on your location and your cost of living. Here in the US and Silicon Valley, your starting salary, what you'll get as a junior dev as your first job, is enough to live off of. I can't speak for other areas of the world. I'm not sure how that goes, but at least here in the US, junior devs make enough to live off of. Then let me clarify that. If you have a family of 4 living in San Francisco, maybe not. But just you and maybe some other dependents, yeah, you'll be fine. Can you make videos about ARKit? Again, that's on the list. I'm very fascinated with ARKit, especially, I don't know if you guys saw the rumors about the AR VR headset that they kind of just leaked out for Apple. that's going to be very interesting. And I'm hoping we hear more about that at WWDC. Have you any thoughts on EOS and crypto? It's exploding right now. I haven't really looked into it, to be honest with you. I just know it's in another one of the quote-unquote Ethereum killers. We'll see. But yeah, I just know it's exploding right now. Most iOS dev YouTubers cover the basics. I would love to see more advanced topics, tutorials, plus GitHub code. Yeah, Gabriel. So it's tricky, right? Because and I'm just telling you kind of the strategy behind the channel, right? Because the whole channel is to get exposure, get views, teach the most people, impact the most people. And just to be blunt, the most people are just learning in the basics. That's how you're going to reach the broadest audience. So that's why I started with all my content with basically beginner stuff, and I'm slowly starting to get into more advanced stuff, but that's still like only a couple videos, right? That's not going to be the core of the channel. The reason being, it's like a funnel, right? You can reach this many people. I'm trying to get in frame. You can reach this many people with basic stuff, but you can only reach this many people with the advanced stuff, and it gets, the more advanced you get, the narrower that gets. So, I would love to do more advanced videos too, but like I said, the audience gets much smaller the higher up that, path you go. So, and obviously I'm trying to grow my channel, trying to reach and teach as many people as I possibly can. So, I kind of battle with that. But I thanks for that feedback, Gabriel. I do, if more people keep asking for it, then, gotta please the audience. Not says, Sean, I sent my resume and got 4 interviews, invitations. I attended 3 of them, and the questions they asked, same to your video. Thanks to you, Sean. Also, I'm surprised that they also asked for Objective-C. So they're only going to ask for Objective-C if their code base is in Objective-C, most likely. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, if you've been here the whole time, I get a lot of comments like this where they say like, yeah, I went to an interview and basically they asked everything that was on your interview series. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I made the series. So it's always good to get good feedback on that. And like I said, that's turning out to be a very, very valuable video playlist. So if you're not familiar, if you're new to the channel, I have a Swift interview tips playlist where I dive into the main questions you're going to get asked, the iOS questions, right? Like when it comes to the algorithms and data structures and the whiteboarding stuff, like the pool of questions they can ask you is huge, so it's hard to like cover all that, but the pool of iOS questions they're going to ask you is actually pretty limited, and I cover just about all of them in that series. There's a couple topics I haven't covered yet, but you'll be fine for the most part. My genuine question got skipped. Should I repost? Sorry, sometimes my chat jumps around, so I might have missed it. So yeah, Tim, go ahead and repost that. Any apps fully created and maintained by you, not for contract coming? No, I just don't have time. So Kyle, if I wasn't doing this YouTube channel, I would be making apps, but basically, so these YouTube videos take, anywhere from 3 to 7 hours each to make. The advanced Swift one takes longer because I have to like read the entire chapter, figure out what I want to present from that chapter, how to present it, the best way to present it. And then, it's just, these videos take a long time. And so basically by having this YouTube as a side business, and I am trying to build it up as a business, working on ebooks, courses, that kind of stuff, there's just no time to like make my own app. I actually do have ideas for like a video series, making some simple apps. Like I have a TV OS app idea that I want to make that I'm going to turn into a video series eventually. But yeah, nothing on my own that like I'll put on the App Store and try to make money off that. Basically my mindset and how I'm approaching this is I don't think I can make money on the App Store. I shouldn't say I don't think. The probability of me putting out an app and making money off it on the App Store is so low that I don't think it's worth it. Now, I'm not telling you not to do that, right? I'm just playing the odds, right? The odds of me making it on the App Store are very slim. It's just a math problem. Probabilities are very slim. The odds of me continuing contracting, making money that way, I just feel like that has the larger ROI. Don't get me wrong, you could hit it big on the App Store, but that's kind of like hitting the lottery to me. Just in short, deciding on selection of architecture. Like how would you decide? So kind of what we talked about a little bit today. It's someone mentioned, and again, I'm not familiar with Viper and MVVM, but somebody mentioned they went with Viper because of the unit testing. So if you have a reason like that, choose that. But the trade-off is it's going to be trickier for new devs coming into, again, like a Reactive Swift framework or a Viper. So yeah. Storyboard or programmatic approach. There it is. There it is. Which do you choose? I choose a mix of them. I'll give my standard answer. If you're just learning, I recommend doing programmatic, because you are going to, it is a little tougher and a little more intimidating, but you're going to learn what's going on under the hood, and you're going to learn more about how UI views are created and what's actually going on. Because basically what storyboard is just like a layer above that. It basically translates that code into something more user-friendly, like drag and drop type stuff. But if you're just learning on storyboard, you're not going to really learn what's actually going on under the hood. So that's why for learners, I recommend programmatic. But my take on it now that like I'm not learning is, if it's a pretty simple standard screen, like a basic table view or just a static screen, I go storyboard for that. However, the more complex, the more dynamic, the more heavily reused a view or a screen or a UI element is, then I switch to programmatic. So I'm fluid with it. I feel I want to give up. I cannot develop mobile iOS app. I am lazy. To be honest with you, Abdul, if you're lazy, it's going to be tough, because learning how to program is not easy. It's a very, very long journey. You have to have patience and persistence. So I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but you're going to have to get over the laziness bit of it if you want to learn iOS development. Flutter is still in beta. Yeah, I know Flutter is like super, super new. So it's hard to like give definitive opinions on it, right? It's brand new. All right, sorry, my chat just jumped around again. All right, Chris says, love you, bro. Thanks, Chris. Your video about Flutter native iOS. Thanks, Pablo. So yeah, a lot of people like that. I'm surprised, because that is a kind of a controversial topic, and it's got 0 dislikes. As of before the stream. That'll probably change now that I said it. Everybody's going to go dislike it. But yeah, it's pretty rare to get like 200 something likes and 0 dislikes. So I guess people liked it. Junan says, love your content. Thanks you. Abdul, I need quick advice. I feel I'm about to give up now, because since 1 year I learned, until now, I do not have an application in the App Store. I wouldn't worry about having like a full-blown application in the App Store. I would worry about building your portfolio with smaller projects that can demonstrate what you can do. Again, make a network call, display it in a table view or collection view, stuff like that. Make a small camera app, make a small map kit app. Just build stuff that can demonstrate you can use the pretty basic iOS stuff. I wouldn't worry about getting a full-fledged app on the App Store. Build your portfolio of smaller projects that can demonstrate your abilities if you're trying to get a job or trying to get a contract. Because even if you do get an official app on the App Store, it depends on what the app is, right? You may only be showing off a very small subset of skills. Whereas if you have smaller projects that show off all the basics, I think that might be the better approach for somebody just starting out, trying to get their first contract or trying to get their first job. Guillermo says, it's always good to have a sober view on stuff, especially after some doomsday preacher has had a rant. Yeah, I'm talking about the video yesterday. Hey, Sean, thanks for your vids. No problem, Darwin. Thanks for watching. The issue with Android is there is Java between Linux and I'm looking forward to Librem 5. Not familiar with Android. Can't comment on that. Would it be possible for you to tweet or share which videos you're doing during WWDC? Yeah, I haven't planned it out yet, and I'm not going to know because they don't really announce the schedule of videos. I can't remember, and I'm going to say this wrong, but whatever. But I think it's like you don't see the schedule until like the day before. So it's really hard. Obviously, there's going to be a keynote, but there's going to be a what's new in Swift 5. But like I don't know what they're going to announce or what they're going to talk about yet. So it's pretty hard for me to give advance notice on what I'm going to cover because it's kind of a surprise. But I think I am going to do a live stream like right after the keynote. Like the keynote will play for like 2 hours. And then I'll probably hop on live just to like talk about what we saw and just kind of have basically just a hangout with you guys, talk back and forth about what we thought was exciting, what we didn't like. So I will be doing that. Like I said, WWDC week for me is going to be very busy, and there's going to be a lot of content that week. Just don't know what it is yet. What skills do you think are most important to learn to be considered solid, good dev? If not skills, what type of apps should you build? So I kind of just answered that. The main skill I always say is be able to download JSON from the internet, display it into a table view properly, right, on the right thread, make it, smooth scrolling, all that stuff. That's kind of a key thing because basically every app, connects to the internet and interacts with networking. Like I said, camera apps are pretty common. MapKit, map apps, location is very common. Basically, just look at your phone and look at some of this stuff that all the apps do or all the apps have in it that are very, very common among most apps, and then build projects around that to showcase that. Ryan West says, are you really trying to get into one of the 5 big companies down in Silicon Valley, or are you looking to see what happens? I feel like you have the background and don't see why they wouldn't hire you. So Ryan, you might be new to the channel. I did a job hunt mega vlog. Check that out on my channel. You'll scroll to it. Yeah, I did only go through to the 4 companies. They didn't work out. I've now moved on to a contract to hire position that allows me to have more time on YouTube, but I'll give more updates on that in a future video because things are changing a little bit. Ali says, do you have a video about ternary conditional operator? I don't think I do. I use it in some of my videos and kind of briefly explain it as I use it, but I don't have a video dedicated to that. But I'm a big fan of the ternary operator. I use it all the time. Rayon says, hey, Sir Sean, some people say Flutter better than native platform because of Flutter faster than iOS, yada, yada, yada. Rayon, check out my channel, the video I just released yesterday, and I addressed that. What's your next favorite platform? So what I'm working on next is, oh, great segue. Thank you, Adman. I forgot to talk about something. So this will be a great segue for it. So I'm learning Solidity for the Ethereum blockchain, and we're building smart contracts for that. So that would for sure be my next favorite platform. And let me show this poll I put up last week where it says, I'm learning Solidity to write smart contracts on Ethereum blockchain. Are you interested in a small subset of content on my YouTube channel about that? And then you can see you got 319 replies. 50% said yes, they were curious about it. 34% says no, don't do it. And then 16 didn't care. So yeah, I am going to do, again, just a small video series on Ethereum and Solidity, just to see how that goes. I do think it's good to diversify your talents into different areas. So I'm huge on, I know it's such a crazy buzzword and people are sick about hearing Bitcoin and blockchain, but yeah, I'm a huge believer. I'm all in. So I'm trying to future-proof my career to dabble in where I think the world is going. And I'm not leaving Swift, don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of dabbling a little bit in where I think where the world is going. That way, if I do decide to shift, I'll have been like learning on the side for a year or two or whatever, and then I'm not starting from scratch. I can just kind of hit the ground running. So that's kind of how I'm looking at that. And like I said, I view that as like future-proofing my career. So I am going to do a small video series on it, but again, I want to reiterate, and I tweeted this too, that it's not going to turn into a Ethereum Solidity channel, right? We're talking like, it'll be like 5% of the channel. So just one small video series. But so that's my next favorite platform, blockchain. Not that I'm in love with Ethereum or anything like that, but it's just the current leader in the smart contract blockchain. So that's what I chose. I know that Apple bought Buddy Build and stopped non-iOS deployment options. Okay. Hi, Sean. Love your vids. Cool. Patrick says, I'm in the middle of the reject resubmission thing. Everybody goes through it. I know this is your first app, Patrick. So it's just trial by fire there. I'm sorry. I can't think of the phrase. I don't know. Everybody goes through that their first time. So don't feel bad. Sometimes the submissions can be fickle. The good thing about what you're going through now with submitting your first app and getting rejected and resubmitting is that it used to take a week in between rejection, resubmission. Like it used to be such a long process, but now Apple's done a great job. App review is down to a day. Obviously it fluctuates, but yeah. So just be thankful you don't have to wait a week in between each rejection / resubmission, because that's how it used to be. What would you use inside dynamic UI table view cell instead of stack view? Any UI stack view alternatives? Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So a cell is just a view, so you can kind of build it however you like. So yeah, it depends on what you're trying to do. Are you attending WWDC? I am not attending the actual event, but I might go down for one day just to kind of partake in the festivities that go down there. I am very interested in AR. I need to figure out an idea. I agree. I tried to come up with something, but I don't know. Well, I think we're going to get a lot of ARKit updates here at WWDC. That's kind of my prediction. They just released ARKit 1.5 with vertical services now, because it used to just be horizontal. But yeah, I think we're going to get some major updates at DubDub for ARKit. So maybe that'll spark some ideas here in a month or so. Dang it. Sorry. Chat jumped again. And sorry, guys. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Okay, I'm going to start speeding up because it feels like we're approaching the 1 hour mark and there's a ton of questions. So you probably won't get long answers, but I'm going to hit them like real quick. Okay. Joined a startup as a senior architect. Great. They were using Flux and consider the code base, which takes 20 minutes to compile. So yeah, sounds like they're, it's kind of the topic of the video, weird architectures. How would you unit test the Firebase stuff? Trying to learn some good architecture. Something clicks, some things click, some things don't. So I don't have any experience with Firebase. All the apps I've built have had a backend web developer attached to them, building a custom backend. So I can't help you there, but sorry. Kyle says, how many subs for you to go full time? It's not really about subs. Because it's about, can I build a business around the current audience? I expect to have 30 to 40 by the end of the year. So like I said, 2019, January 1st is when I'm going to reassess the situation. I expect to be 30 to 40K, somewhere in there. But yeah, it kind of all depends on the actual sub numbers. Not that important. It's about, with that audience, can I build an engaged core audience? Right? Because a subscriber could be somebody that follows me on Twitter, Instagram, interacts with me, right? Like that's a great audience member. Or it could be somebody that like doesn't even know my name but watched one tutorial. You know what I mean? There's a difference in that. So if I can build up as many of the core audience as possible, then I'll go sooner. But yeah, so it's not so much about the overall subs number, although that it is a nice vanity metric that can like socially validate your channel. But as far as like me going full time, there's no specific number. Yeah, okay, so Kumar's expanding on what he was talking about coming into this new code base, how understanding the code is horrible. Like I said, it all depends on the trade-off. Sometimes that learning curve may be worth it. Sometimes it might not when you're deciding what to build your app in. Tariq says, I appreciate your effort, your response to everyone, unlike other YouTubers and streamers. I hope you grow and reach your goals. Thank you. I click thumbs up. Did you? Yeah, guys. I never say that. I think every YouTuber says, smash that like button and, all that stuff. I don't know. I think it does actually help, to be honest with you, with the algorithm, but yeah. Mayor says, for getting a job as a junior dev, should I only prep for iOS or should I do cracking the coding interview as well? You have to do both. I obviously ask. So whatever recruiter you're dealing with or company you're dealing with, you can ask about the interview process. Say, what type of questions are you going to ask me? Are we going to do whiteboarding? And if they say, yeah, we're going to do whiteboarding with data structures and algorithms, then yeah, you better get on your cracking the coding interview. If they say, because not all companies do that, but if they say, no, we don't do the data structures and algorithms on the whiteboard, then cracking the coding interview might be emphasized a little less, even though the stuff you learn in there is still very, very valuable. But yeah, this is a question I would ask your recruiter or whoever you're dealing with at the company and kind of go from there. Do some AR stuff, please, as I am doing a final project in AR shopping an app in iOS. Yeah, like I said, if WWDC announces some cool AR stuff, I'll for sure do a nice little tutorial there. It's kind of funny you mentioned you're doing a final project in AR shopping app. This is not a knock on you, Janine, but I get emails all the time, like from CS students basically asking me to do their homework. It's kind of funny. They're like, I have this project here, can you do? And it's not just like one simple problem. It's like they're asking me to like build a whole like feature. I'm just like, slow down, man. Okay, so I had my first ever interview this week. It went okay. What really helped me was get noticed was my YouTube channel, which was inspired by you partly. The interviewer says, let's skip what we know you know. That's awesome, Christoph. I actually had the same experience at one of my interviews. They're like, yeah, we saw your channel. I know you know all the basics, so let's just jump right into some more advanced stuff, which was good. I mean, don't get me wrong, the advanced stuff was hard, but it was good because they already knew my base level, and they weren't, because I may have struggled on the super advanced stuff, because when they ask you, they're trying to find your breaking point and your knowledge breaking point, right? So good. Glad to hear that that's helped out, Christoph. I've experienced that as well. And that just kind of goes to another thing I always preach is about having a good online presence, whether it's a blog, being active on Twitter. A YouTube channel is a bit extreme. I always say that, but you can have a blog for sure, but that will certainly help you in interviews or get noticed. Hammond says, I'm facing issue in table view cell shows. Okay, sorry, I can't get into exact issues. I'm trying to do some lightning around here to wrap this up. Anonymous Penguin says, I love your website. I want to make a portfolio. Do you use a template or hand code the website from scratch? So I did use the Bootstrap template, but that was mainly just for all the CSS stuff. I didn't use, like you said, a template. I designed the layout myself, built the layout myself, but it is built on top of Bootstrap. But yeah, it's just HTML, CSS. It's a pretty basic website, right? Nothing crazy is going on. I think the only JavaScript being used is for the when you click on more screenshots or something like that, and the thing pops up. That's like the only JavaScript in there, but it's all basic HTML, CSS. It's on GitHub Pages, so it's free. Very, very simple website. I don't claim to be an HTML, CSS genius by any means, and I can produce that. So yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is I think that type of website is very easily reproducible. Sorry, scrolling down here. Should I just focus on learning Swift or do something else along with it? Because I have all day free because high school just ended and college has months to start. So if you know you like Swift and you know mobile iOS is what you want to do, then yes, I would focus on that. But if you're exploring, like you're like, I might want to do web development. I don't know. I might want to do mobile. I don't know. I might want to do Android. I don't know. If you're kind of still exploring what you want to do, then yes, I would taste all the different flavors. That way you can make a better decision. However, if you've already tasted and you know you want to do Swift and you know iOS is what you want to do, then yeah, I would just go all in on Swift. I mean, learning in high school is awesome. Like, I commend you for that. Like, you guys may have heard my story. I wrote my first line of code at like 32 or 33, and I can't even imagine where I'd be if I had started like in high school. So very jealous that you're starting that early. So yeah, happy to help if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out. I commend you for starting that early. That's awesome. It's great to do conversational topics if you do it respectfully. Swift not dying thing was a good gesture. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I wasn't going after him, trying to attack him or bash him. I tried to keep it as respectful as possible and just kind of point out the, like I said, the things I thought were false. Hey, Nathaniel, greetings from Germany. Good to see you. Sorry, there's other conversations going on, trying to weed through them. The WWDC hangout would be great. I would love to be a part of that. Yeah, I mean, so the keynote is usually on that Monday. So I believe it's January 4th from 10 a.m. Pacific to noon Pacific. So, and I'll be tweeting about this and letting you guys know. But basically noon Pacific, I will be, basically as soon as it's done, I will go live and we'll talk immediate reactions. And like I said, just have a conversation about what we loved that we saw at Dub and, things made us cringe, just kind of hang out and talk about it. Pablo says, do you enjoy your iMac? Did you miss the huge curved display? Did you get rid of it? So there was a huge trade-off with the curved display. So I do miss the real estate for sure. However, that 34-inch ultra-wide was the low resolution. It wasn't 4K, let alone this is 5K. So especially for video editing, that was very noticeable. For programming, that's not a big deal for me. But for video editing, it was noticeable. So yes, I missed the real estate, but it's a conscious trade-off that I knew I was going to make. Did I get rid of it? No, I actually took it to the office of the company that I'm working for now. So basically now when I go to work, I have that monitor. When I come home for video editing, I have this monitor. Solidity costs gas to write, but it's free to read. Yeah, that is a fascinating thing about that. Every line of code costs gas, so you have to be very, very efficient with what you write is the word I'm looking for. But Solidity is completely different from iOS. Building an iOS app, the world is your oyster. You can do everything. Solidity is intentionally meant to be narrow because with smart contracts, you're typically dealing with, or you could be dealing with a lot of money. So you want the least amount of attack vectors as possible. So the way I describe Solidity is interesting is it's not difficult to write the smart contract, but so 10% of it is writing the smart contract. 90% of it is securing the smart contract and making sure people can't hack it. And that's where the difficulty comes in. Writing the smart contract is not the difficult part. So just a little taste there of what we could be talking about in a video series. Oh man, the chat jumped again. Sorry, give me a second. Going back up. All right. Okay, Tim says, reposted question. Okay, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I must have missed it. I just joined your Patreon community. Was I meant to get a Slack invite link? I sent an email to you to ask, but no response. I understand you're busy, so no sweat if you forgot. Tim, I'm usually really right on top of that. If you didn't get one, my apologies. That slipped through the crack because I get all kinds of notifications when that happens. So I'm usually within a day. So no, it just must have completely slipped through. Send me another email just so it pops up to the top. I'll dig and try to find your original one, but send me another email and I'll check it right after this stream and get that invite to you. My apologies. Like I said, I'm usually very good at that because I get notifications galore when that happens. Better late than never. Hey, what's going on, Philip? The main difference between Android and iOS is the difference in App Store. Android is more like a free market, while iOS is like some established good quality market. Yeah, for sure. The Google Play Store is like kind of like the Wild West. They just take anything. Apple, tries to curate the best they can to make sure there's just not complete scams or garbage going up there. Hammer says, I'm struggling to figure this out. How to check if your app is secure enough. I'm not sure what you mean by secure enough. Matt says, hey man, keep up the good live streams. I love watching them. Yeah, so we're going to keep up the pace of every other Sunday. I enjoy doing them too, but doing them weekly, I was just running out of topics. And then basically was just doing Q&As, and then it was just basically the same questions over and over and over again. So I felt like it was getting, repetitive for the people that came every week. Felt like we were having the same conversation each week. So I think doing it every other week gives me time to find an interesting topic to discuss, and I won't run out of topics. Because not only do I have to have topics for my videos, but I have to have topics for like live streams. So yeah, every other Sunday I think is going to be good. What's your go-to snack when you're coding? I don't really have one, to be honest with you. Can you make a tutorial on testing? Kima, yeah, I've said this before, and I'll fully admit, the biggest hole in my development game is unit testing. So I definitely have this high on my list because I need to get better at it myself. And I believe what helps me learn is by making these videos and by teaching, right? Like I always say this, when you can teach something, that means you know it fairly well. When you can break it down into its simplest forms and explain it to somebody that doesn't know it. So it's just a matter of finding the time. Kimia, that is high on the priority list. It's just got to find the time to do it. Will you learn React JS? Maybe just touch it. So it's with development, and there's just so much to learn. I mean, I just don't have the time. Again, this YouTube channel takes up a crazy amount of my spare time. So this is why I mentioned, I haven't gotten a chance to play with MVVM or all that stuff. It's because all my spare time that I would be doing that as like a quote unquote normal dev is spent making these videos, editing these videos, helping people with their questions on Twitter and email and just interacting in general. So that's kind of the trade-off. I'm not complaining. That's just the trade-off I knew I was making by trying to make this YouTube channel a thing. Here in Macedonia, we don't have companies that work with Swift really. So where should I start with freelancing as a complete beginner? I have a small portfolio. So if you're trying to do remote international stuff, it depends on. I'm not a fan of Upwork, but if you're just getting your start and you're not worried about making a ton of money, because the rates are pretty low on Upwork, I would recommend it just to get your start and to kind of start building your portfolio. But if you don't have companies that work with Swift, I'm not sure how to help you there. Okay, looks like Philip's helping out Hammer there. About a huge whiteboard because of you, and it helps a lot. I did too. I have one myself. Yeah, it's completely different coding on like Xcode than when you actually have to like write it out. It's a whole new game. So if you are in the interview process and you're going to be doing whiteboarding, you don't have to get a huge whiteboard, but work on writing code rather than typing. Even at the bare minimum, just write on a piece of paper with a pen. If you can get a small whiteboard, that's even better. The second thumbs up. There's only 2 likes on the video. I don't know. I'm not watching it, but it's hard to believe. Hi, Sean. What do you think? Is PHP better than Node.js with MySQL database or not? What do you prefer? So I'm not a backend dev. I don't have much experience in this world. So, David, appreciate the question, but I can't really answer that. Looks like Gearman's jumping in there. Appreciate that. Okay, looks like I'm getting to the end of the list. We're going to go rapid fire and then wrap it up. So if you have any last second questions, get it in. Because it looks like much of what's left is this conversation about Node.js. As an iOS developer, do we need to upgrade to React Native? No. Why on earth would you? Okay, talking about database. Okay. Mujtaba says, have you done an online assessment before an interview? If yes, how did you prepare for it? What do you mean by online assessment? So I've had some interviews where they sent me to a site and said, hey, solve these problems. And you solve the problem on that site and you submit it. And then they say, okay, cool, we'll move on. So I've done that. And there's not much to really prepare for because it's kind of like homework. Like you can Google stuff. You know, you're not like in the interview process. So there wasn't really much to prepare for. Tim, I just got your email, so I'll definitely check that out. Will you make a video about project organization? What to send to GitHub after installing pods? Overall good naming and stuff. Yes, Chicksong. This has been brought up before, and this is another one. Remember, I keep talking about this super long list of videos I have. This is another one that's high on the list. More about just like project organization, how I name my folders, what I put in the folder, what folders I make. And that is a very subjective topic. Let me just be honest. So like what I put out there is not the end all be all correct answer. It's just how I do things, my opinion. So when I do put out that video, I'm going to put out that disclaimer like, hey, I would love to hear your setup and what you guys do, because everybody's going to do it a little different. And like I said, it's a very subjective way to do it. Yogesh says, we want a setup tour. That is coming. I have about half of it filmed. My thing is, right, like I watch like MKBHD and all the tech YouTubers, and they do just such cool, you know, setup videos with their camera movements, and it just looks so awesome. And I can't reproduce that. I just don't have the setup for it or the equipment. So like trying to do something like that just feels like whatever I create will just end up looking cheesy and horrible, because I'm like comparing myself to that, which is probably bad. But so I'm trying to do a setup tour as best I can without looking like I'm trying too hard to do that and it just looks bad. So, but I have like half of it filmed. So I don't know, that'll probably come out next week or so. Which type of questions to prepare for an interview? Amit, so go to my Swift interview tips playlist on my channel. Watch all those. That'll help you out for the iOS portion. And then for the whiteboarding algorithm portion, that's hard to prepare for because the pool of questions they can ask is huge. Any suggestions on a good structured way to learn Swift? So I started with raywunderlich.com, their video subscription. I believe it's like 15 or 20 a month. Yeah, and they just have a ton of videos on there. I basically went through all their videos, and then I branched out into building my own project. And building my own project is actually where the most of the learning came from, right? Because when you're just following tutorials, you're basically just typing what people tell you to type, right? And then cool, I have this app. But when you actually build your own project and you build your own idea, that's when you have to like. So what I did was I built a sticker app for iMessages when iMessages first came out in iOS 10. There was no tutorials out there because it was a brand new framework that nobody had done. So that's what really kind of was a turning point in my career, where I like really started to learn how to read the docs and really started to create my own thing rather than just like following a tutorial or the answer was there on Stack Overflow. So start with the videos and the tutorials. That's a great place to start. And then just the biggest learning thing is going to be making your own project. Are you doing the Advanced Swift series bi-weekly now? It's going to be weekly. I missed out on this week. Reasons. Again, those Advanced Swift videos take very, very long to make. So that is why if I miss a week, it's just because of the process I go through. Like I said, the chapters are 50 pages long. I got to boil that down and like I said, I'm learning a lot in the chapter. So it's not like stuff I already know. So I have to learn it, soak it in, figure out how to present it so it's, you know, easy for you guys to learn. And then I got to boil that 50 pages down into like a small video. It's a long process. So those are tough to make. That's why they're slow coming out. But yeah, my intentions are to release one weekly. I just missed this week. Big thanks for you all that you do on YouTube. Appreciate that. Will I get a benefit to iOS dev by learning .NET backend dev? So I'm not familiar with .NET backend dev. Learning any language will help you with the next language, right? Nothing, I shouldn't say nothing, but if you're learning to program, a lot of stuff will be transferable to a new language, new platform, right? Not all of it, but so I wouldn't say you're wasting your time learning that. But yeah, you'll see some benefits. It would be great if you could start more videos on AR. Again, waiting to see what they do at WWDC. I think that's going to be a lot of AR stuff, so we'll see. And like I said, I'm taking the whole week off of WWDC, so I'll have time to dig into the source code and stuff and put some stuff out. The downside to that is when I'm putting out videos, because I did this last year, basically the day they get out, because I'm trying to get them out quick, I'm on the beta 1.0 of like Xcode, and then from like June until October till they finally release, the new iOS, they go through 4, 5, 6 betas and keep improving it. Like I said, the downside of being so quick and doing it right away is that all my videos, tutorials, information is based on the very first beta. So what I'm trying to say is typically things change. So it's kind of a balance, right? Like I want to be there quick and early because the attention's there. Everybody wants to know what the new stuff is. But at the same time, the tutorials can kind of change. So if I were to wait till October, the excitement may have died down. So yeah, that's kind of the decisions I deal with. All right, looks like we're getting here to the end. Semper says, thanks, Sean. It's nice. It's always nice when I can actually catch the live stream live. Haha, appreciate that. Hi, to use core data or SQLite in your app development. So I always use, like I said, custom backends that are, I'm usually on a team that has a backend web developer. So I never really have to create my own. Try out the book Sean Allen uses in his book club style video series. I like your videos, like optional. Thank you, Amit. Philip says, okay, I think that's still, they're part of a different conversation there. Create a core data video, please. That'll probably never happen. I don't use it. I don't know. So it's hard for me to make a video on something I never used. And I think it's more, I say this all the time, but I think people think they need to learn core data more than they actually do. Again, I've worked on 10 code bases by now, and none of them use core data. I'm not saying it's useless and pointless. Don't get it twisted. All I'm saying is I think people think it's a very common thing that everyone has to know, and I just think the opposite is true. I think it's more of a niche thing that doesn't actually get used that often. Certainly gets used, but it's not as prevalent as I think people think it is. All right, I started learning Swift over a month ago. A senior iOS developer at work told me not to use the MVC architecture. I mean, I'd love to hear his reasons. Maybe he has valid reasons for that, app. Simple core data. Okay, cool. Which book is this? Cracking the Coding Interview? No, it's the Advanced Swift book. To check out my channel, I have a playlist called Advanced Swift, and then there's links in the description to that book. All right, guys, last question. Oh, there's a small underserved market in YouTube. I do a Viper architecture video. Like I said, I've never used Viper, so it's hard for me to do that. A lot of people are searching, I assume. Okay, cool. All right, guys, thanks for showing up. We'll see you guys next Sunday. No, not next Sunday. 2 Sundays from now. All right, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow with Swift News. And then Advanced Swift Chapter 5, which is about structs and classes, will be out next week as well. All right, see you guys.